Today I'm here again with Ian, and we are going to talk about what it takes to go pro in your business. What do we mean by that? Well, I just hear so many horror stories and it just drives me absolutely crazy about agents or lenders or whoever it is in a sales professional that is not communicating with their people once they go under contract or throughout that process. So they're missing a whole educational piece. And today I just want to dive deep with Ian and go into, what makes a good communication strategy when you are under contract and even before you go under contract. How do you set those expectations in order to be a professional and help get your clients having, a great customer experience and being really raving fans instead of, scared to death to ask them for a review at the end of the situation or at the end of the transaction. So go ahead, even tell me a little bit about, what is your process and how do you work with your clients once you're before you go under contract, going under contract, and then how do you get those raving reviews and all those?
You bet. Well, thanks for having me on again, man. I appreciate it. This is a topic that's near and dear to me. The concept of being a professional as opposed to operating your business or your occupation, if you will, as an amateur is there's a small piece, probably like a 1 to 3% change between an amateur and a professional. And my personal opinion is mindset, which is I am consciously saying I want to be a professional. And I think we've talked about this before. Malcolm Gladwell says a professional is someone who's worked on their craft for 10,000 hours. Well, that may technically make you a professional, but having that mindset of I'm going to do every single thing I do as a professional. So we see that vision long before we become it. So I've always looked at it that way. It's sort of a fake it till you make it is what I learned from my mom, smoke and mirrors. However, if you're being genuine about it and you truly do want to be a professional, that's the first step, in my opinion. Now, for my business, I've been in the lending industry for 16 years, but I've been in retail my entire life, and I've been an entrepreneur more or less since I was a young child. And what I have learned is the better I understand the process, the procedure, and so on, the better I can perform. However, you can have the best process and procedure, but if you don't articulate that and explain it to the person that you're working with along the way, they may not understand what part of the process you're in.
Absolutely. Value not articulated is value not appreciated. And that is probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in my career, just like you, is that if you're not explaining what you're doing throughout that sales process, even if it is the exact same thing that everybody else does, and they should know, you're not articulating your value and what's giving them your special, right? So I think it was a beer company, I can't remember, but in the 40s or 50s, and pretty much they were like the dog, like level number 23 or something in sales in the US, and I think it was like Natural Light or something, a big company now, right? But their whole process, they hired a consultant to come in, and first thing the consultant does is walks in and says, okay, tell me what you do, right? Walks them through that whole brewery and things like that and says, oh, we use this twice purified water and the this and the that and these hops, and we get them from here and we get them from there and we do all this stuff. And the guy's like blown away. He's a salesperson, of course, and sales consultant. Basically takes those concepts, comes back and writes this amazing commercial on how they, use this purified water, how they use this, and what makes the flavor and everything taste so much better, right? And shows it to him, and the guy's like, that's what everybody does that. What do you mean? Why are you saying that this is our value? Everybody does beer that way, right? Well, guess what? Nobody's telling people that that's how they make the beer. So guess what happens as soon as they articulate that value, show people the process, and are transparent on what makes it taste like a great beer, they move up to number 3, right underneath Anheuser-Busch and Coors. So that's right. Value not articulated is value not appreciated. Definitely one of the biggest things that we can do in order to go pro. So sorry for jumping in.
No, that's perfect.
One of my favorite stories.
Good segue. So yeah, the value component, and I talk about this a lot with my team and folks all over the country. Having someone like you is one thing, but having someone value you is where you really become a professional.
That's right.
They're going to refer you. They're going to insist that other folks work with you. They're going to respect you. So understanding your own value to begin with is a whole nother thing that we can chat about, but let's pretend that we understand what our value is. And I do believe that's the foundation for all of success, is understanding your own value. With that said, now we need to articulate that to the consumer, let's say, that we're working with. So for me and my team, what we do is we are very clear on what our value is. Our value is, and this, a lot of this derives from me, and I attract this to me, is I grew up in a situation where I had to learn a lot of things on my own. My parents were aspiring entrepreneurs, but I was left to my own, by myself, for lack of better words, to learn things, and I picked up along the way. Now, it's my personal belief that if you have a coach, a mentor, a partner in your success, that you're going to succeed significantly faster and at a higher level than if you try to do it on your own. That's my personal belief. And a lot of that comes from the way that I grew up. Moving out of my house when I was 15, I had to find coaches and mentors to help me along the way.
Absolutely. I
knew that I was going to go fast on my own, but I wasn't going to go very far. So everything that we talk about is about value, is about partnerships. Mm-hmm. And I'm a mortgage banker. I have the same commodity minus some products here and there that are different because of our unique value of our institution. However, we're talking about most folks are commoditized, real estate, lending, any of that. So how do we separate ourselves from that commodity? That's our value. And the way I do that is I articulate my overall goal and my value of, I want to become a coach or a mentor with the folks that I'm working with. And there's that value. And then the way that I articulate that is I want to make sure that we have a conversation and an open line of communication, a two-way street of communication. Absolutely. And I articulate that. Just like I'm saying now, I explain it every single time. Mm-hmm. Now, the institution I work for was founded by 12 professors at the University of Colorado, so we're very much educational based. I was not your traditional student, so education for me was very difficult until I learned to find it along the way, and it's helped me grow tremendously. So my two-way street of communication that I'm articulating to my client or the folks that I'm working with is all about how do we have the easiest or open line of communication back and forth. Not super monumental, but very important. So I draw this analogy. It's a two-way street of communication. It's paved with education. That's where my success and the company that I work with success comes from. And then I like to say that we need to have guardrails on that street, because the road to real estate or investing in real estate or buying or selling or any part of that, there's ups and downs and there's twists and turns. And we have our seatbelts on, but it can get bumpy. Mm-hmm. Those guardrails are transparency and vulnerability. So as a true professional, I believe if you're transparent with who you are and what you do and can articulate that, and then have the vulnerability to ask your customer or partner or whoever this is you're chatting with where they're coming from. And then you can move into the middle of that road. And between transparency and vulnerability, you have trust built. And then when things get wonky and I have a question or you have a question, we have enough vulnerability and openness to talk to each other. And that's what the communication that you're talking about, I believe.
Absolutely. And so many people have a weird mindset about vulnerability, and especially new people that are getting into the business or just struggling a little bit. It's like, oh no, I can't let you know where I'm at because of X, Y, and Z, and I might not be that sales professional like somebody that's doing 100 deals. Right. Well, I mean, I tell you what, the first thing that I started when I first started, got my real estate license, is, hey, here's what this is, here's who I am, here's where I'm at, and here's how it's going to be, right? So I attract those people to me. And one of my favorite saying that I say to all my clients, and they ask me questions all the time, and I'm like, hey, I could totally make something up right now on that, but let me go research and find out so I'm not lying to you, right? So I let them know, hey, I might not know everything. I could probably make something up, but let's go get it figured out for sure. So I definitely know where to find all the information, and that's what I express to my clients. And I think that it builds that trust that I'm not that know-it-all salesperson or that person that's trying to trick them. We're just like, I really do care that they get that best house. That's my first thing, right? It's not about a commission for me, and it's not about that. Now, I've been really, really broke and needed those commissions, but guess what? If it's not the right deal for that client, we're canceling that contract, we're moving forward, and, I'm living on a credit card that month. But
Yeah.
it's been a long time since I had to do that, and I think it's because I approach my clients and my people from that place.
And you're approaching them, Ryan, from a professional mindset, whether you've done it 10 hours or 10,000 hours.
Exactly.
One thing you said that really struck to me, regardless of where you are in your career, if you're trying to make shit up, for lack of better words, and maybe you need to bleep that out, but I personally believe that shows amateur right there. If you're a professional and you know that you want to be the best that you can be, you have to be humble enough to say, I don't know that answer, but I'm going to find that answer.
That's right.
And nobody wants to be sold to, right? That's the biggest issue that we have in being salespeople is we think it's the turn and burn. It's all the stuff that we saw, at least that I saw growing up on those high pressures, always be sailing, the used car saw.
Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, all this.
It's like, oh, I want to do that. Wait a minute. Do I? No.
It's just not authentic, right? The other part is authenticity. Mm-hmm. And what I struggled a lot, and quite frankly, it creeps in once in a while when I'm expanding and growing out of my comfort zone, which is typically 8 to 12 times a day, which is that imposter syndrome, right? Where I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I can't pretend to be a professional if I don't know it all. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? If I know 10% more than you, guess what? I'm a professional compared to you.
Right.
And as long as I'm doing it with integrity, authenticity to who I am, and being able to say, I don't know the answer to that. And the know-it-all thing, people pick up on that right away.
Absolutely. And they don't trust it.
Not
because there's nobody knows it all.
Right.
Now,
as being a professional, I believe that professional attitude has to go through your entire life.
Absolutely.
So one example of that is I know what my problems are. I know what my vices are. I know if I do certain things, I'm not going to accomplish what I need to do. So in 2010, I gave a big push to my wife. I'm like, man, all my friends are watching football. All the talk at the networking events is all sports. I'm going to get the NFL package, and I'm going to be the best. I'm going to know what's going on. Now, listen, I appreciate sports. I appreciate the mindset, the revenue, the coaching. There's so much about it that I appreciate. You know what I don't appreciate? Is spending my entire Sunday sitting down watching football games. I have not, after that season of football in 2010, I have not had a subscription to any television. Mm-hmm. Now, do I watch Netflix or one of those once in a while? Yes. But what I learned was, if I'm trying to be a professional Monday through Friday, and quite frankly, if you're an aspiring professional in any avenue, let alone the home market and real estate profession in general, it's a 7-day-a-week thing.
Right.
I realized that I had to cut that out, because that was an amateur activity. That was not a professional activity. It was not allowing me to bring more value to myself or other folks. Now, by no means am I telling you shouldn't watch TV at all. Arguably, that was an Achilles heel for me. Yeah. So I knew that wasn't work. So I cut that amateur habit out and replaced it with a professional habit, one of which is planning for the next week, and being able to say, here's the 3 or 5 things I'm going to do Monday, 3 or 5 things I'm going to do Tuesday, and making that power list of what I'm going to do. So it's a mindset. I mean, you don't just say, oh, I'm a professional at real estate, I'm a professional at everything.
Right.
You have to be able to really think. When I woke up this morning, I was like, man, I got to meet Ryan at 11. So what are the things that I need to get done? I really don't want to go work out, but I'm going to do that. I really don't want to plan my day, but I have to do that. I have to do those things, and it becomes a habit. And that's the difference between an amateur and a professional, right? Yeah. An amateur says, I'll do it when I have time, or I don't really want to do it. A professional says, you know what? I'm going to do those things I don't want to do. I'm going to have those conversations I don't want to have until I get used to them and improve on them 1% every single day.
Absolutely. And then it's not a conversation you don't want to have. It's just a conversation. And guess what? When you have those conversations more and more and more, it gives clarity to the other person, it builds trust, and it builds confidence in them and in yourself. And so it's 100% just amazing on how to turn pro by having those conversations and, picking what you want to do in your life, right? I mean, that's funny that you say that. I did the same thing. I gave up watching sports years ago, right? just because, and news, right? So I don't watch news and I don't watch sports. I figure if anything is important, somebody's going to tell me. And it's okay if I go, oh, really? Wow, that's amazing. Because guess what? They're like, they don't treat you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you don't know that. They think, oh wow, I'm so amazing, I just gave somebody else knowledge, right? And that's how I look at it. I'm like, hey, if it's important, I'm going to build rapport with that person and I'm going to let them share their knowledge with me, right? Now, 99% of the time, it's not important to me and doesn't change my life one single bit. So I go and say, oh, thank you for that. That's very nice. How do you feel about this? So I change the conversation and redirect because, yeah, I try to avoid those politics and things.
Sure. Yeah, and listen, everyone's going to have a different position on it, but it's really, truly having a filter that says, this is what I believe is professional. This is what's amateur. Where do I want to be? And if you want to be amateur, great. I probably wouldn't tune into this again because all we're trying to do is help everyone that's tuning into this is chase your greatest potential and be the best person that you could be while we're sitting here doing the same thing. Yep. And that's the difference between an amateur and a professional. And, you know, there's plenty of horror stories and great stories about amateur and professional. You were actually sharing one with me yesterday about a buyer who was talking to you and your spouse about her interaction with a lender, and maybe you can explain it a little more, just anecdotally, if I'm saying that properly.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that people come to us, and I don't know. We're just like, I don't care who you're working with, if you're working with me or you're working with another agent or another lender, you know, and you want to talk about it, I'm open to talk, right? And so this lady, she just came up to us and, you know, she was in tears basically, and was having such a hard time because she locked in her rate at 7.25% or whatever percent a month ago, right? She hasn't closed on her home yet. She's trying to figure out why it's still that, because she got a $12,000 credit from the seller to buy down the interest rate. And so I'm like, well, how do you buy it down to 7.25%? I don't get that. That's what they were. Right? And so she's having all these problems. She was just super upset. She's not getting any conversations from her lender. She's not getting any conversations from the other real estate agent. One of the conversations that they did get out of the real estate agent was that, well, I think that's his only deal and he really needs to close it this month. What? How is that professional? You know, he's just totally avoiding her and avoiding the situation because he doesn't want to go to, you know, Kohl's or Marshall's to buy Christmas presents, I guess. I don't know. Or right. Walmart, wherever.
So the question is, I mean, for me, that's very clear. That's an amateur move. Mm-hmm. And not because of the total situation. It's just very clear that first, that amateur person isn't able to say inside themselves, hey, this isn't working well.
Right.
They clearly did not set up the interaction or conversation to be that trusted advisor that can have that open communication. Listen, I currently while we're filming this, interest rates have dropped into the 6s. We were up at 7.25, 7.5. They're always fluctuating. The point being, the conversation around this is, there's education that you can value that you can bring that the real estate agent and the loan officer can bring to this scenario for the consumer so that they can feel comfortable about what's going on and understand why.
Yes.
So whether you're analytical or more process oriented, left or right brain, we all want to know why. The way that we articulate that why and understand it are different. But my question would be, what happened early on in this what I would call a transaction, because right now it doesn't feel very transformational for this gal.
No.
Is what happened where she got into that, where she just, you know, hooked her wagon, so to speak, with this real estate agent and this lender, that she's down the road. It's getting real bumpy. The wheels are falling off. She can see closing in sight, but she's also like, am I getting duped? Is this right? Now, plenty of people crowdsource from other information. This happens to me all the time.
Yep.
And I've been doing this for a long time, and I really only work with people that align well with me and understand what I'm about. I understand what they're about. So it doesn't happen often. And there needs to be that open line of communication. And that's such a simple thing to do. As a professional, you can say, listen, Ryan, I know this is your first house you're buying, or your second house or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is really important for me to make this difference in your life. I'm here to talk to you. I want to help you. How do we make sure we get the most out of it? Now, there's that's the professional, and then there's the amateur. Like, this is a great rate for you. This is awesome. I'm excited for the closing, and I'm leading from, holy cow, I hope this is going to close.
Better make it.
Right. People see that all day long. And you are not going to have what I call the 3 R's. You're not going to have the reviews. Mm-mm. You're not going to have the referrals, and you're not going to have the repeat business from those folks.
Nope.
So it's short-ended. So if we can get our ego out of the way and just be open to it. But you hear those horror stories all the time, and I have to say, even in my 16 years of doing this, I've had very few of those where I'm on the other end. And the reason being is I did learn at an early age is that if you can put your ego aside, and I lost tons of deals because I was not a hard salesperson. I was the person that had the 2-hour loan applications and would talk to the people every single day, overcompensating because I wanted to be that professional.
Right.
I did not want to be amateur.
Absolutely.
With that said, I do believe, and we go back to this every single time, is if you don't have that professional mindset, find someone who does. Mm-hmm. Find that coach, find that mentor.
Yes.
Listen, all the businesses I've ever started, I always went to the best in town. I said, I want to learn from you. And they're all pretty much were like, shut the door in my face. But what I've learned is over time, if you can find those professionals that you want to be, whether it's someone online or someone local, like you mentioned, you're always trying to help folks. I'm always trying to, like, right. Listen, I've made plenty of money, had plenty of success. I'm always driving for more, but I always have time for folks that want to be professional because there's nothing worse than living life around a bunch of amateurs. So coming back to center here is we use those stories just to give you an idea that those can happen really simple.
Absolutely. And it was a friend of hers, is the real estate agent first. And then that friend, it's her friend that's the mortgage broker. And they don't really do a lot of deals or have a lot of processes or have a lot of things in place for that strategy, right? If the deal works and it's great and it's smooth, awesome, right? Another thing was, she got an email, not from the lender, but from the processor, I think, basically that says, hey, what is this money deposited in your bank 6 months ago? It could really be it. And it made it sound super, super scary. Like, if you don't document this right and if you don't do this right, we're going to kill this deal and you're closing tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm
so like, that's screams amateur, right?
Yeah. Why wasn't there conversations from either the real estate agent, that's the best buddy, or the loan officer and all those things, right? Or both.
And here's the thing. All of this screams amateur, which is okay if you can learn from it. Like, listen, I hope the real estate agent, the consumer, and the loan officer learn dramatically from this. Absolutely. I doubt it's going to happen for anyone except for probably the consumer. Mm-hmm. And she's probably going to hate real estate agents and hate loan officers. And that's not what any of us need.
Right.
Because quite frankly, I think a real estate agent and a lender are two of the best businesses that I've ever been involved in terms of changing and creating opportunities for yourself and other people and affecting your community. Mm-hmm. So why not have more professionals that are setting that standard higher?
Yeah, absolutely. Setting that standard higher, educating them, letting them get into investment properties and different investment opportunities, and just knowing that those things are out there and explaining to them in the process, whether it's working now or working in the future with them. You definitely want to have that. And, like this lady, she came to us, right? And she's not my client. I don't know her. But guess what? I poured into her. I gave her. I let her know it's going to be all right. I told her it's probably this. And then, I'm kind of an asshole. And I said, well, if you can get the rates down lower, make sure you refinance within 6 months and then he won't get his commission. So,
hey, it's a lesson learned.
Now, that's terrible for me. I know I shouldn't be that way. But I'm like, it just makes me mad when people, aren't professional, right?
I'm not going to disagree with you. But yeah, bringing it all back around, there is a big difference between professional and amateur. And it's a choice. Yep. It's simply a choice. You don't just wake up and you're a professional. Mm-mm. You put in the work every single day, but it's that mindset. I want to be a professional. And then find those coaches, those mentors, those folks that are going to drive you to be a professional.
That's right. And, being a professional in the real estate market, I went and, I don't know if I talked about this last time, but I was in the front of a room. There was 50, 60 real estate agents. I was speaking in Detroit. Yeah, I go to all the fancy places, so, But speaking in Detroit, asking that. I'm like, okay, how many real estate agents, are in here? Great. Okay. How many of you do 10 deals, 20 deals, 30 deals? So we got a lot of people that were doing a lot of heavy production. I go, okay, how's the real estate market right now? Have you guys ever heard that question? And everybody's like, oh yeah, it's terrible. It's this, it's that. And I'm like, okay, why? How many homes sold in this city or in this little suburb, basically is what it was. How many homes sold here last month? Crickets. Not a single agent in that room could tell me how many homes sold, let alone how many homes sold in the $100,000 to $200,000 price range, the $200,000 to $300,000, the $400,000 to $500,000, and then that over 500 is a super luxury market there in that little area.
Sure.
And so it was like, how many sold over here? And nobody could tell me those things. But you know what? I could tell them. I'm like, hey, guess what? The price range from 225 to 250, there was the most amount of homes were listed in that price range. And guess what? They all went under contract. Every single one of them. Now, the ones that were a little bit lower, they were dogs. And so they hadn't gone under contract a little bit. And then the ones that were higher, they were overpriced, right? A little bit. Mm-hmm. And so like 225, some of the 225 houses look just like the 325 houses, right?
Right.
Now, I could be wrong and not know streets and area and these things, but I'm guessing that the reason why that 325 is still on the market is because it's the same as the 225. And so by knowing those price ranges and being able to explain that to your clients and explain those different processes where that's happening and where the opportunity is in the market and letting them know that, hey, really the market is saying that it's okay to buy in this median price range right now. Why? Because everybody else is. And if we can find that right property for you at that right price and at that right monthly payment, that is the now time to buy.
And you, as coming into this market, did a little bit of research, not a ton.
No, I just got online.
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, before my presentation. So it's not like I'm
and maybe you read it a couple more times because you're memorizing in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. The point being is even the pros in there that are selling the most and closing the most, they're not doing that little bit of extra to be a professional.
Yeah.
They're just waking up and responding. And as a real estate agent, it's not that hard to be able to have just a little bit of data and talking points of where the market is and how it works. Listen, I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know where interest rates are all the time.
Yeah.
But I have a general idea where the market is. And I'm actually, the more I spend time with you, Ryan, the more I realize what got me to where I am is not going to get me to where I'm going to go.
Absolutely.
And that extra little bit of knowing the market a little bit better and understanding the pieces and being able to articulate that. Because you don't have to be the nightly news with a whole forecast of economics and so on.
Yeah.
But if you're a real estate professional and you don't know your market and the sub-markets and someone that can come in to speak to 60 of you and your colleagues knows more about those pieces that a consumer just needs that 1 or 2 minutes of understanding that you understand the data.
Yeah.
That's the difference between amateur and professional.
Absolutely. You know what? Like we live in the Denver Metroplex, right? So like Boulder, Colorado, I live in Southwest Longmont. Ian lives right in between Boulder and in Niwot in Longmont. So it's like small, there's a bunch of small little cities, right? Do I know every single number of every single small city? No. I know Boulder and I know the big, the Metroplex. Why? Because if I can talk to those, it makes me look like a professional. And then I can say, and guess what? It's about the same here, except in Longmont, the price range is 100,000 less, right? Or this is about that. And Louisville, it's about, 50,000 more, or, so once you know the abouts, then you can talk about the different neighborhoods or areas that those people are interested in.
That's right.
And then you can go find that real data and present it to them in your presentation, in your buyer presentation or your listing presentation. Oh my gosh, we have to do a presentation, Ryan? Yes.
Well, that's the other part about being a professional is you have to narrow down what you're a professional is. Just because you're a real estate agent doesn't mean you're a real estate agent for everything.
That's right.
For me personally, when I started out in lending, I was in my 20s. I was in a affluent area. So I focused on condominiums for 2 reasons. One, that's what my friends could afford. 2, they're the hardest piece and I knew nobody wanted to work hard, and the easy stuff the pros are probably not going to do, or they're going to have someone else do. And then the other part is I focused on low affordable housing, for lack of better words, attainable housing. And I started in that niche, whatever it's called, and I made myself the expert. Well, I had never done mortgages before. I just studied those, so I knew the data more.
Yeah.
Right? And selling a house isn't that hard. Getting through a contract, minus the negotiation and so on, isn't that hard.
Right.
It's the front end, building the trust, the rapport, all those things. And I feel like we're kind of going around in circles here, but really what it comes down to is that mindset. I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to know the most that I can about this piece, and then I'm going to articulate that in a authentic way to the consumer that I'm dealing with and that I'm working with, so they can build trust and they can ask me those questions that they don't know, and maybe I don't know, but I can find the answer, and then I can still be the professional.
Absolutely. And that's all being a professional is, right? Is being willing to learn a little bit, being willing to say what you don't know and then go learn that and add that to your repertoire, and then being able to deliver it to your clients. That's it. That's how you become a professional. That's how you have unlimited deal flow. That's how you do all those things, and everybody's like, unlimited deal flow? Yes, because, you can buy leads online, you can get referral leads from all those things, but the way you close those is to build those relationships through time with people, showing your professionalism.
That's awesome.
So,
all right. I think with that takes us home.
Perfect. Thanks, Ian. I appreciate you stopping by today, and look forward to doing this. And we'll be posting these content on our podcast coming up every single week for you guys. So look forward to it.
Yeah, and the only thing I want to say is thanks for the viewers, and if you appreciate what we're doing, subscribe, like, share. We don't get paid to do this. We put this information out there to help other folks. So please share it with whoever you think would benefit from it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian.